Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chad Richards. I'm actually reporting to you live, actually working on a sign project. And every sign professional should know that the process is exactly the way we're about to do it. It's nothing new in the industry. It's actually something very, very self-explanatory that when you're doing a sign, you need to pay close attention to detail. This is actually a process right here that a lot of people seem to think goes a little unnoticed, is the actual process of what happens when a sign is being made is that it is done in a way that you have to make sure to measure, and remeasure every single element to make sure that nothing is out of place. Because the most important thing to realize is that our customer is our customer, not our customer's customer. So that's something that's very, very important to actually realize, is that we have to make sure that our customer is completely satisfied, which is the one that actually is getting this sign. Now, as you can see, you can dial 815-444 or 4600 if you'd like to reach this company to get a used commercial vehicle, which is something that most people need if they're in business for themselves. So, if you take a look here, we're actually double checking and rechecking all of our measurements to make sure that everything is completely consistent before we proceed. Now, we want to make sure that the customer's sign is absolutely beautiful. Now, if you notice, there's a couple details that are going on right here. One is actually measuring. Another thing that you'll actually notice is that this is a reader board area. Much like a message board, this reader board will give that customer the opportunity to give a message out to their customers on a daily basis if they choose to, so that they can let the customer know, hey, we've got a sale today on a bucket truck. We've got special financing. There's so many options that somebody can say on their letter to make sure and let people know that their company can be well represented with the right vehicle if they dial 815-444-4600. Now this is much more of an opportunity for you, ladies and gentlemen, to see that Expect More Signs likes that customer to be able to expect more, okay? Now, if you notice, you can't completely lean your stuff forward like this without taking advantage of getting a special cut in place for a straight line. You want to make sure that you have something to measure off of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a very, very special cut to get this perforation right here that was good for my cutting process, but not good for my installation process. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this off of here and make sure that I make a very, very, very consistent straight line. And by doing so, I'm going to make sure and focus my attention completely on being able to make as straight of a consistent cut. Now, if you notice right here, this is as straight of a consistent cut. Now, this perforation at the bottom right here was causing a little bit of a challenge for me in making sure that this stayed down in a very, very consistent position. Now remember, when I'm doing my measuring, I have to, after this process right here, make sure that I completely measure off of every straight spot, not round letters. It's because, as you know, that the round letters, they're actually a little bit different in dimension than those squared off letters. Now I'm working my way all the way over here to the side, and by doing so, you'll notice that I'll be able to make a very, very consistent cut until I get all the way to the end. Now, work area is actually another thing that we got to make sure that we leave the area cleaner than when we found it, when we first started. And we got to make sure that this cut gets consistent all the way to the end. And by doing so, we'll be able to measure appropriately, space this thing appropriately, and make for just another satisfied customer out there in America. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chad Richards, and I'm reporting to you live from Expect More Signs, where you can always expect more. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a very, very important process right here that needs to be thought of, which is actually being able to measure appropriately, tape everything down appropriately, and that's something that you should expect. Now, notice in the process, I did say that it's very important to clean up after yourself in the process. So we're going to make sure you do so. And let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and measure next. Thank you very much. I'll be able to actually throw a couple of things away. All right. Now, if you take notice here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be pulling this back down into position, and it's going to be very easy for me at this point, since I already know the measurement that I'm shooting for. I'm looking for an 8 1/4 coming over in this direction, and then at the bottom, I'm looking for a 2 1/4. So I'm positioning that upward, and you notice I close one eye so that I can see clearly in focus that we have 8 1/4 going on right over here. Now, if you take the tape, you'll be able to tape the subject down. There we go. Nice and easy. And then I'm going to go over to this side, and I'm just going to verify that my measurement is also for the dimension of 2 1/4 right underneath my squared off lettering. And then I'll close one eye again just to make sure that I can focus and see that that's exactly what I was looking for. And I'm going to go ahead and tape this down. Now remember that my very, very straight squared off cut at the bottom is going to be a key ingredient right over here. Now I'll go ahead and take this, apply this downward, okay? And then I'll take this and tape that off. I'll be able to tape that off and tape that off. And now I am ready to do the next step right here, which is actually one thing that I need to remember is that I'm not only taping that off, but since my masking doesn't completely go downward, I'm actually in need of taping off my masking at the bottom edge of it as well. So when I flip this stuff forward, I'm actually offering some assistance actually to hold in position the remaining pieces of this. Now, this is the way that we do it. We go ahead and we get started by getting our application tool. Make sure that everything is firmly in place as far as this transfer tape, or some people might call it masking tape. There are a number of different names or references to it, but I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is all completely in the downward position. Then I'm going to go ahead and peel this, and I want to make sure that this completely lifts off like so, okay? Now I want this to all completely lift off, and I want this to completely lift off as well, okay? Now I'm peeling this to itself. That's one of the most important details that we need to always remember. When you learn from someone that's an expert in the industry, that you go ahead and do it the way that you were taught. In a downward position, notice that it's a little challenging at times for it to lift off, but the important thing to remember is that maybe that transfer tape needs to be adhered to it with a little bit of pressure, and then hopefully we can get it to lift off. And I remember, as I learned, that the X-Acto blade should take the place of what you tried to do actually with your fingernail, because you want to be able to lift this off of there and keep peeling this up, and use that X-Acto blade as if it was your fingernail. I know you wanted to grab a hold of that with your fingernail, but you got to be ever so patient with these things to make sure that you do these things appropriately. Now lifting those things off. Okay. And I know there's probably a couple people out there in TV land that are probably a little bit concerned that I'm doing this in the safest manner possible, because everybody wants to see a good quality product at the end of the day. So that's why I'm doing my very, very best to go ahead and make good sound effects with my breathing gestures and whatnot, so that people know that I'm focusing and doing this thing as nicely as possible. Now I'm just making sure to remember all of the things that I was taught to make sure that I give a good quality demonstration of the process that goes into play for such a detailed piece of work. Because this is actually more considered kind of like a work of art. See, some people start off in this industry and pretty much stick to it and enjoy every moment of what they do. And I admire that every single time that I see a good success story behind it, and knowing that it all takes a great deal of patience and determination to go ahead and, treat this pretty much as a craft that you enjoy. That's one of the most important things, is that you remember that this is something that you can definitely enjoy if you stick to it, and we can do our very, very best at making sure that we do a really, really good job in the process. And I think everyone's going to be super, super happy with the results. Now, I remember that there was one detail that I didn't do, which was cutting off this in sections. That is one detail that I got to remember. That was a detail to do, is cutting this off into sections, so that you're not challenged by trying to deal with this entire area all at once. Now I notice, because of the distance that we're working with here, that what was recommended was to cut this off into 3 different sections. All right, there we go. And I'm making sure to follow my knife in such a way that I don't cut the letters that we're dealing with. Now that I've dealt with that, this section can be completely dealt with like this, okay? And these are actually going to be dealt with actually wet once this is actually completely lifted, okay? Then this area comes into play right here with the X-Acto knife. Got to make sure and completely lift off this. And remember, this is actually a skill, ladies and gentlemen, that is very, very important. That you know that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But every single dog, no matter what size you are, you need to also realize that it's important to learn and understand how things are done, understand all of the meticulous detail that goes into a project such as this, so that you can realize the beauty of it when you're driving past a sign on the highway. See, a lot of people look at this and they think, oh, that's where that place is. People look for signs for direction to see where a place is, but they might not realize all of the efforts that actually go into making a sign like this come to life. And I actually appreciate the fact that we actually get a good opportunity to actually learn this cool process, so that we can show the information superhighways and people all the way out there in America, all of the cool steps that go into a process like this. Now, it might be like you're sitting there and you're you're wondering, when is he going to stick those stickers down already? Well, if you're still watching this, I really do appreciate you, and really do appreciate the fact that you're taking time out of your day to enjoy this awesome process so that you can see just how cool it is to see what happens when a sign takes shape and actually gets installed and whatnot. It's a very, very awesome process to see the beauty that goes into the sign process. And next time you take a look at a sign, you can actually sit back and think how cool it was that you were actually able to enjoy this experience with me, so that you can see just how cool it is to say the word cool a million times. And you can say the word cool as many times as you want. Now I could say that this is like a phenomenal experience, or I could use a couple other descriptive words that some people have become familiar with to enjoy this process. I could just tell you how exciting it is to actually have the opportunity to do a project such as this, and how much work goes into doing a project like this, and all of the thought process that goes into it, so that you can basically understand the process when you look at a sign and you're driving down the road. And I know some people are probably thinking to themselves, geez, when are we going to stop for a commercial break? Well, we can do that real quick. We can actually stop for a commercial break. Now, Gatorade has been known to be a very, very important part of this process right here, because it restores you of all of the nutrition and electrolytes that you're looking for. Gatorade, the choice of someone that's very thirsty. Now, with all of that talking, you've got to realize that I was a little bit thirsty. And I know you're wondering, when is that guy going to stop talking and take a breath? Delicious. Now, what would make this a little bit better is that Snickers, which is not a brand that I created, it's a brand that everyone recognizes, is actually a very nourishing snack to substitute an actual meal. I know this doesn't contain vegetables or meats or any proteins that are like you get from meats and vegetables, but there is actually a lot of good value that comes from a Snicker, because after all, it does really satisfy. Now this is Snickers that's actually with hazelnut flavor, similar to Nutella. I don't know if anyone knows this or not, but this is very, very delicious. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Mm. That's really good, really good. A snack wouldn't be a snack without the goodness of Keebler's cheesy crackers. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you realize this or not, but if you actually are enjoying a bite out of a Snickers, followed by a sip of an amazing taste of Gatorade, and you switch over to cheddar cheese crackers by Keebler, you're actually in for a treat. Because not only do you have the chocolatey goodness of Snickers, the cheesy goodness of a Keebler's cheddar cheese cracker, but you also have electrolytes that are being restored to your body, replenishing your hydration by drinking Gatorade. And then, if you take a bite into a Keebler's cheddar cheese cracker, you're in for a whole nother treat. Mm. Mm. Really good. Chad is so animated. He keeps on talking and talking and talking. Oh, you really think so? Thanks. I'm glad you noticed. All right. So, all right. Let's see here. So now, got this going right here. All right. All righty then. Now, when I learned how to do this, the guy that taught me made this look very, very easy. And you know why? Because he's a seasoned professional. And you got to really appreciate someone that is a seasoned professional, because, yeah, it's supposed to look really, really easy when they do it, because they've been doing this and it's like pretty much like tying their shoes. And that's one thing that I would like to achieve one day, is to be able to tie my own shoes without having someone teach me how to tie my shoes. All right, so now I'm going ahead to pull this up, up, up and away, up and out of the way. Alrighty. All right. Today's experience was brought to you by Milwaukee, which makes retractable blades. Milwaukee, made in Milwaukee, sold in Milwaukee. Retractable blades. And by Stanley, who makes great tape measures with a great amount of standout. Do you know standout? Standout is actually the process of when you're able to take your tape measure and extend it to a point that they advertise for, which they say that this tape measure will not collapse or fall apart within a period of 11 feet, which is actually 32 inches. There is an incredible amount of strength in this tape measure by Stanley. It stands up to its standout claim that it can stand out for 132 inches. Very impressive. Tape measures by Stanley. All right, so then, as we keep on going right here, all right, and by MacBook Pro computers. And as you can see, MacBook Pro computers, they actually keep on ticking. They keep on working well, and they get us through all of our achievable tasks, like designing a nice sign right here for Signature Truck Center, where you can reach them at 815-444-4600. Now notice that this computer by MacBook Pro, it keeps on working and working and working, even though I've accidentally dropped it and the screen cracked. I still love my MacBook Pro computer, because it is absolutely wonderful. It gets me through a number of different numerous projects. And I really enjoy my MacBook Pro computer. Anyway, so I'm right back over here. And I'm getting this all completely up. All right, and all right, and all right, and all right. And brought to you by the Tekna Edge X-Acto knife. Tekna Edge X-Acto knife. Oh, say can you see? so glad that you've joined us out there, ladies and gentlemen, for this very, very consumable process. Consumable because it's consuming a little bit of time in the process, but it's well worth every single moment of it because it is an absolutely awesome process. Now, it could be the humidity in the air that's causing this sticker to stay in position for such an extreme amount of time, or it could be the process of user error. Someone that's using this process and is very slow. I'm not gonna point at anyone and say that somebody is doing a process like this extremely slow and talking too much, but that guy right over there is having a user error. Anyway, so now I am lifting this right off of here because I'm on the last part that needs to lift off of here. And it is going to be an amazing process out there, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. So I am enjoying every moment of the process because I'm having a great time out here in TV land. Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen, out here in TV land. And there we are. And we're going ahead to lift that off of there with the Techna Edge X-Acto knife. And we're having a great time out here. Yes, yes, yes indeedy. Yes indeedy. All right, so I'm lifting this off of here. Alrighty. Alrighty then. Yeah, I like what you've done. Alrighty then. Alrighty. Which reminds me of a time that I was at a barber shop getting my hair cut, of course, because that's what you do at a barber shop is you stop there to get your hair cut. And it reminds me of a time that the barber said, and I'm not naming any names, but the barber had actually said, "Gee, Chad, you're getting a little thick around the waist, aren't you?" You wouldn't even imagine how funny that was at the time, because every single person in the barbershop looked over at me and looked over at the barber and said, "Did you hear what he just said?" I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty uncomfortable with the fact that another man noticed the waist change that I had going on." That's kind of like when somebody comes up to you and says, "What size shoe do you wear?" And you think to yourself there for a second, you think to yourself, maybe they're trying to see if they could borrow a shoe like yours. And you kind of hope that that's the direction that they're going in. Yeah, you kind of really hope that that's the direction that they're going in when they say, "Geez, what size shoe do you wear?" So anyways, those are kind of some comments that you kind of have to keep to yourself, and you're just hoping that there can be some kind of clarity on why a comment like that was made. But nonetheless, people have a different way of communicating these days, don't they? So you never know, what their intentions are, but you kind of want to hope that they have some good, positive intentions when they say some interesting comments like that. I used to do stand-up comedy years ago, and some people would say, "Tell us a joke, Chad. Tell us a joke." And anyhow, you can pause it for a second.